What you say, ladies and gents, it is your boy Bucat Sam, and we are back again today for another match reaction and analysis. Today it is for Brentford versus the Wolves at the Molineux in the West Midlands. The sun was shining just like it is here, and Brentford came out on top as winners, 2-0 away from home. A brilliant result for them, just climbing up the table for them, and Wolves still not scoring and Brentford not conceding. But anyway, we're going to go straight into it, delve into the analysis and reaction. But if you haven't already, please smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. But what I'm going to say straight away, it was very interesting seeing the two sides playing very similar formations with slight little tweaks. The Wolves going into this game playing a 3-4-3 system with two central midfielders in Ruben Neves and Moutinho, Marçal on the left, in the left wing back kind of role, and Semedo on the right wing back, whereas Brentford were playing a 3-5-2 with Mbeumo and Toney up top, and Toney was awesome today. But anyway, what I find interesting about these two formations, one thing you'd think straight away looking at those formations is Brentford are going to be dominating the middle. They're going to have that extra man in the middle, congest it and defend quite narrowly and play the narrow block that they always do. They play it every game. They put men behind the ball, and that's why they've only conceded 2 goals. They've conceded the third least amount of goals this season than any club in the league, which is a very good start to the season. And just confused me a bit, Wolves' formation. With the 3-4-3 system, I get it if they were going to play with, they play with the two wingers in Traoré and Trincao, and I thought those two would then play quite wide, and then you'd have the overlapping runs from Marçal and Semedo, but that's not what they did. Really confused me. Marçal, when he was driving with the ball, then Traoré would come inside, playing as kind of an inside forward, and stand on the centre-back. And in that half, it was Aya, I've forgotten him, Brentford centre-back, and Pinnock on the other side, which is what Trincao was playing on. What I don't get is, I don't know why they weren't finding the gaps. They were always standing on a defender, and then the wing-back would then just follow Marçal, and it was just kind of man-for-man marking. I thought it was really poor from the Wolves. I'd have thought they'd have tried to get the overlap in, finding the gaps, but there just wasn't much movement. I thought Traoré, every week I seem to say it, when are we going to start seeing this player that supposedly is there? Yes, he can drive with the ball. I can drive with the ball. We all can drive with the ball, but he's got no end product. So many times he'd get to the byline and put the ball out, or he'd dribble the ball out of play, or 2 big crosses, 2 straight. He couldn't be the first man. I don't think he's good enough, and I think he's one of the reasons why Wolves are struggling, because they're giving the ball and he doesn't pass it on. He doesn't move it fast enough. And yeah, that's Traoré rant over. But the first goal, Brentford, they just do what they do. They play counter-attacking football, they win the corner, and then there's just complete stupid mismatch. For some reason, Ivan Toney's been marked by Marçal, and it's just mismatch. And then he rugby tackles him. It's definitely a penalty. There's no discussions whether it was a penalty. And Ivan Toney, he does not miss penalties. Call as you like, that's his 12th penalty now scored. He's only missed 1, and that was in a pre-season game. Call as you like, slotted it into the bottom corner. And then from there onwards, Brentford just kind of came out. Yes, they'd been playing very counter-attacking style, a bit had that low block, but then for the next 10 minutes they were just in Wolves' face, putting pressure on, because they could tell Wolves were looking nervy and anxious at the back. And then the second goal, it came from a counter-attack, a long ball. Toney turns Kilman way too easily, and then Kilman, for some reason, rather than putting the ball out with his slide tackle, he tries to win the ball back and keep it. Then Toney takes the ball off him. Cody should really come out and just block the shot. Cody kind of stood in no man's land, which then gave Toney the time to pick out Mbeumo. And what really annoyed me is Roman's size. Rather than trying to stay on the man, he tried to be clever and play an offside trap, kind of stepped up, but no one else did. So he left Mbeumo on his own, 6 yards out, and Mbeumo tap in. They're 2-0 down, and then they've got all to play for. Brentford, sit back, do what they do best, as I've said, the low counter block, 5 at the back, then they play with those 3 midfielders who play very narrow. And then what I just said earlier, Wolves then come inside, constantly coming inside. What Wolves had to be doing there is matching up 2 on the side, playing little inside passes, then maybe Moutinho or Neves coming slightly inside, or slightly to the wings, and then playing some nice little neat passes and getting round, finding gaps, moving around. Instead, they just played slow, melodical, is that the right word? But easy to read passes. It's so slow and predictable, and Brentford just kind of just stayed in position, cleared everything. Wolves had 0 shots on target in this game, 0 shots on target against a 10-men Brentford, and I haven't even touched on that. Baptiste, I thought, was having a really good game. He was on a yellow and then decides to rugby tackle a player. Don't get it. Second yellow, sent off, and it looked like he was about to get subbed off anyway, which is quite interesting. Thomas Frank will be annoyed at him, but there's no need to be too annoyed, because they're playing against a Wolves side, really. He got no sting, and then Bruno Lager keeps just throwing on striker after striker after striker. It's all well and good throwing on strikers, but you need to create things in the first place. They need more midfielders. They needed more men in that centre of midfield. If you're playing up against, it was 2v3 in the middle. until the red card. And Wolves had got all the possession and they were just sat back and they wouldn't press until it's the final third, and then Brentford would nick it and counter-attack, and that's what happened throughout the game. I thought it was a really poor tactics from the Wolves side. I think Wolves really should just match Brentford, put that extra man in midfield and probably drop Traore, because I think now he's starting to see he's not the player everyone thinks he is. And I know I might get a bit of hate for that, but really, what is he doing? He drives with the ball and loses it so often. He could be such a good player, but a lot of the time he's quite selfish in the fact that he has to get to the ball and has to beat players. What they needed to do when there was 10 men is pass the ball around fast. When you're playing against 10 men, they're going to sit back and they're going to block and they're going to close all those gaps very narrow. So what Wolves should have done is played some really nice passing football, fast movement, bringing players out positions, out wide, and then making gaps in the middle. Instead, they just kept going through the middle constantly into that sea, that wall of defenders, and it was just really poor from the Wolves. 10 men and they've had 0 shots. And yes, they've been playing some really nice football in recent weeks, but we didn't see that today. And Jimenez, it's a shame because I really want him to do well, but I think you need to give him a bit of a break and give Huang a chance maybe, or Fabio Silva, maybe a bit more energy. It was just interesting. I did think going into this game Wolves were going to win, because I thought they've got the pace. Sergi Canos isn't the greatest right wing back. He's not great at defending usually, but today he was on fire. I thought he kept Traore quiet in the first half because Traore was playing on the left. And that's another thing I don't get. Playing Traore on the left, he's going to cut in onto his right and he can't shoot. Same with Trincao. If there's 3 at the back, you don't want wingers to keep cutting inside, because they're cutting inside to 3 defenders who are going to block every single shot. They need to be crossing the ball in, making movements, getting to the byline, pulling it back to midfielders arriving late. But no, instead, Bruno Lage wanted to play wingers whose stronger foot would mean that they're always forced inside, and they just kept then coming back into the middle, into that wall of players, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. And sorry, I know it sounds like I'm slagging off the Wolves here, but I think Wolves could have easily won this game. I really do. I think it was just poor management, and I know hindsight's a brilliant thing, but they could see that Brentford were playing that narrow block and that low block. So bring on wingers, play the ball out wide instead of going straight, constantly just trying through the centre. Just didn't work. It just did not work at all. And Brentford, not to take anything from them, I thought it was an absolute brilliant performance for them. 10 men, grit, determination, tenacity. They were brilliant, winning every single second ball, winning every single first ball. And the thing is, they play some nice football. Yes, they don't have the majority of the possession, they sit back, but when they counter with pace, and they counter really nice football. And the amount of men they get forward, from absolutely literally a click of the fingers, and there's 5 on the attack. But then when they lose the ball, they don't even seem susceptible for a counter-attack on themselves. It's really good the way they play it. Really interesting style of play. I thought Mbermo is a player, yes, he doesn't do as much as Toney, because Toney kind of steals the headlines, because Toney is a brilliant striker, scores goals. But Mbermo, I think, is brilliant. He works defenders, he runs the channels, he comes in deep to get the ball. I think he's a perfect striker. I know originally he hasn't been a striker in recent years, he's played as a winger, but I think he's converted so well as a striker. The fact that what he does defensively as well, same as Toney. Both of them two do so much for Brentford. The amount of running they do is insane. They run the channels, as I said, and they come back and do that grit when they're defending. They were pressing Moutinho and Neves every time they got the ball, because they didn't mind Wolves passing it around the back. It's when that next phase, when they moved it up, Brentford were on them like a flash, those 2 strikers. Them 2 for me were the best players, but obviously Toney has to be given man of the match. Could have scored a hat-trick, had 2 disallowed goals. Yes, they were both right to be disallowed, but brilliant game. He got an assist as well. I just think it was a really good performance from Brentford. So hats off to them, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this bit of match reaction and analysis. 2-0 to Brentford. Let me know, guys, what you think. Was it a Brentford masterclass, or did Bruno Lage just get it wrong this week? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please smash that like and subscribe. But yes, thank you guys for watching. Back at Sam, over and out. Thank you. Goodbye.